Greetings, welcome, Swagatham, Vanakkam. If you want to make sense of the senselessness that the American President Donald J. Trump is displaying on the global stage, here is what you are looking for. So, welcome once again. The expression that Donald Trump loves most, or the words that you hear ever so often from him, is like never before. Everything that he does is like never before, not even close. So that completes it. Like never before, not even close. It is very significant. Trump has consistently displayed or revealed a psychological need to run down his predecessors, particularly Joe Biden. He cannot complete a sentence without saying something uncharitable about Joe Biden. Whether or not Joe Biden deserves it is a different issue. But I'm only making an observation, and all of you have noticed it, therefore I don't have to belabor this. Now, from my very limited psychological understanding, this compulsive desire to run down his predecessors, as well as to project his even routine activities as things never done before, indicates a very strong inferiority complex. Perhaps the most monstrous irony of our times is that the most powerful man, theoretically the most powerful man, or the incumbent in the most powerful office on planet Earth, is a man suffering from serious, manifest, indubitable inferiority complex. Of this I have absolutely no doubt. The assumption of total dominance that Trump wants to claim and inflict upon everybody else, the very philosophy of his MAGA movement, Make America Great Again, does not really have the firepower or the muscle power that it really needs. So there is a need or a desire to project America as the greatest nation in the world, but there is no matching wherewithal for it. There is no matching economic or firepower for it. American dominance has come under very serious orchestrated contestation. And this is something Trump knows, and it's something that is worrying him and is niggling him day in and day out. Now, you can, of course, posture dominance over the rest of the world, but even if you don't have the firepower for it, at least you must have the power of character, or the strength of character, and the power of endurance. If you want to be recognized as the greatest in the world, you must also be willing to suffer for it. Greatness is not handed down to you or handed over to you on a platter. There's a struggle that must necessarily go for it. Your posturing of greatness will be contested by everyone. And that cannot be ruled out, and you must be ready for it. So you must be willing to pay the price for the dominance that you want to project and enjoy. And Trump and the people that he leads are simply not in a position to do so. They don't have the required strength. That's the second point I would make. Now, from a psychological point of view, Trump strikes me as a big infant, a mega infant. There is, of course, intended pun here. MAGA, M-A-G-A, is also uh, similar to mega. So he's a MAGA infant, is also a mega infant. And the way he behaves, the way he has behaved, particularly in the second term, is similar to the behavior of a child who has been denied his customary piece of candy. And you know, the children throw up tantrums when they are really thwarted by elders. And that on a much larger scale, in my opinion, is the way Trump has behaved. But Trump does not realize that being checkmated by forces external to him is not his most fundamental problem. He doesn't seem to understand his primary or basic problem. Trump's fundamental problem is that he is all chaos within himself. He is a two-legged manifestation of inner chaos. He harbors within himself contrary forces, forces that pull him in opposite directions. If you want an academic and high-sounding word for it, contrapuntal pull, pulling in the opposite directions. One moment he is pulled in this direction, another moment he is pulled in the other direction. So that's the reason why you see Trump swinging like a pendulum from one extreme to the other. Trump is a pendulum. And this swing to opposites is predictable. So even though Trump is chaotic, inconsistent, he's still predictable because we know that he's going to swing. The Trump that you see today will not be the Trump tomorrow. And clearly, this denotes a state of psychological incoherence, inner incoherence, which is a serious flaw in character, which has got serious consequences when it comes to practical things. So all of Trump's actions reveal his inner condition. For example, all of us, I'm sure, have been consistently shocked at the way Trump has been treating his traditional allies, the countries of Europe. They simply did not merit the harsh, hostile, denigrating treatment that they received at Trump's hands. Nor did that kind of antagonizing traditional allies promise to yield any good to America. It was not in America's interest for Trump to treat his traditional allies in this manner, as has now been brought to light in a very powerful manner. When America found itself in troubled waters, Trump allied to these very countries, nations, leaders that he belittled, insulted, humiliated, and they obviously responded in a cold manner. And about that also, Trump is now seriously aggrieved, not realizing even for a moment that he created all this mess for himself. So that's what I'm saying, that the actions of a man actually reveal his inner state. The reason why I say that psychologically he is a clutter of, welter of chaotic, contrary forces acting inside of him, over which he has not established mastery. He wants to master the world, but he does not want to master himself. And that's a contradiction that is in full display at the present time. So it's a very interesting case study for those who are interested in character studies. So Trump projects himself as a deal maker. He has a book to that effect. I have not read that book, nor do I intend to read that book. But in actual point of fact, on the ground, to the extent that we have seen in recent times, he is not only a deal maker, he is more importantly a chaos maker, a troublemaker. Trump, the chaos maker. He thinks of himself as a deal maker, but what he has created so far, particularly in the Iran theatre of operation, is chaos and chaos and chaos, and that chaos is now threatening him. He simply does not know how to handle it. So he says, I won the war, I'm running away, and you handle the consequences. Now that's very typical of him. He's acting most consistently, that is, he's acting consistently with his inner condition. That's what needs to be seen. And I don't blame Trump because that's all he can do. And it's foolish to expect anything different from him. Now, in this context, I'm reminded of a Greek philosopher. His name is Heraclitus. Heraclitus, Heraclitus. He lived about 5 centuries before Jesus Christ. Most of his works are lost. Some fragments remain. His main contributions to world thinking are, number 1, the harmony of the opposites. Number 2, the reality of change. Change. You can't understand the world without accepting the reality of change. It is something that Lord Buddha emphasized in the Indian context, and Buddha lived before Heraclitus. But the point from, or the insight from Heraclitus that I want to share with you today is his insight, very interesting and extremely relevant to the present context. Heraclitus says that when a man finds himself, a man who has not really come to terms with himself, finds himself in a difficult situation when the world or forces around him are going against him, he will experience within himself a powerful tendency to run towards the opposite. Now, that's more or less exactly what he wrote. The tendency to run towards the opposite. Opposite of what? Opposite of your own best interest, or the opposite of your own stated policy, the opposite of what people, based on evidence available to them till that point in time, would legitimately expect you to be and to do. So that's the Heracletian principle of running against. Running towards the contrary, running towards what is contrary to yourself. Or to put it in very simple language, when we act in panic, we tend to act against our own interests or to act against common sense. For example, and this actually happened, an aunt of mine was studying in a college in a place called Changanassery, Assumption College, Changanassery. She lived in the girls' hostel. One day in the night, a thief entered the hostel. So there was some hue and cry about it. And my aunt had a torchlight. In those days, people used to keep torchlights. So she panicked. She reached out for the torchlight and she held the torch by the wrong end and flashed the light on her own face, whereas she should have actually flashed it in the opposite direction to see if the thief is lurking somewhere there. That's a simple, familiar illustration of the fact that in a state of panic, we act contrary to common sense and contrary to our own best interests. And I find Donald Trump acting much the way that my aunt acted some 60, 65 years ago. So that's the Heracletian principle of running towards the opposite. Please remember this, running towards the opposite. All of us will experience this one way or another. That's the reason why I thought it was worthwhile to bring it to your notice. For example, Trump ran towards the opposite in declaring the war against a war on Iran, because that was contrary to every promise and every commitment that he had made to his MAGA base. So he was running against his own base, MAGA base. Now he wants to run away, again, contrary to common sense, from the theatre of action, because he cannot pay the price. Continuing the war in Iran will be politically costly, and the political base of the Republican Party will be devastated, much more than Iran is devastated. If this war continues and the MAGA base turns against him viciously, and there are at least slight evidence that this could happen. So that now he wants to run away from there as well. So what Heraclitus said 5 centuries before Jesus Christ has become strikingly relevant to the situation in 2026. So now, because of his MAGA support base, Trump has to act, or Trump is forced to act in this contrary manner. But I don't blame him, because the MAGA base itself is an embodiment of contradiction. Whether Trump realizes it or not, that's how, as a spectator from the East, looks at and understands this phenomenon. For example, what is the goal, or what is the motto, what is the slogan of the MAGA movement? America first. MAGA, make America great again. What's the slogan? America first. Now it sounds fine. Sounds fine, and it sounds legitimate also. But if you have a little common sense, if you have a little maturity in thinking, you will realize that this embodies a contradiction. And what is that contradiction? America can be first only in relation to the world. If America is the only country in the world, it cannot be first or last. The idea of being first becomes totally absurd, senseless. So being the first necessarily involves being in a relationship with all other countries in the world, being involved with the rest of the world. America cannot be first without being involved with the rest of the world. But being involved with the rest of the world cannot be understood as a brutally self-seeking agenda, where America can pursue its interests without any regard for the basic needs, the freedom, the integrity, the inviolability, the safety of peoples and nations on the global arena. So there is a very, very brutal contradiction latent in the very idea of the MAGA movement. It is this that is now coming to light. If the Iran war hadn't happened, I would not have understood this particular aspect of the MAGA movement. Now, the next point I want to share with you is, again, psychological. What a person does, the actions of a person, reveal his inner state or reveal who he actually is. And insofar as Trump is thrown up as part of a powerful movement in America, the MAGA movement, it is justifiable to say that Donald Trump, in the way he has conducted himself, is also willy-nilly an indication of the American predicament. He reveals what America has come to be. Now, you can always say that, no, the whole of America is not like him. Certainly not. But he represents a very large chunk of the American people. In fact, you can't deny the fact that no other president in the history of America has polled as many votes as Donald Trump has. It's an undeniable reality. So you can't really disengage Trump from the American condition, the American predicament. And when I study the American predicament, I cannot escape the realization that the American individual, the individual American, is seriously weakened by his very indulgent and luxurious way of life. Now, I don't have to convince you that people living in luxury cannot fight. You know, in the ancient times, in Greece, the city of Sparta, which wanted to specialize in war making, because in those days that was the greatest activity. So the Spartans embraced a Spartan way of life, which was, the hallmark of which was extreme, brutal simplicity. paucity of time doesn't allow me to go into the details of the Spartan frugality, austerity, and simplicity. Here we have a country which is obviously the richest in the world, where the lifestyle is so lavish and wasteful that the spirit of the human being is enervated, weakened, enfeebled. So America as a nation is simply not fit to fight. This is being explained as war fatigue that Americans have developed due to the Vietnam War, due to the Middle East, Iraq War, Afghanistan, etc. That's not the case. If you want an honest interpretation of this weariness that the Americans are facing, they're not merely Vietnam weary, they're not merely Iraq weary or Afghanistan weary. They are war weary. Why are they war weary? Because they just can't fight. Why can't they fight? Because they've been enfeebled by their way of life. You just can't fight. So this is something that the Americans don't realize. Nobody is talking about it either. But to me, this fact comes to light in a lurid manner in all that happened so far. For example, think of the American scare in the thinking of the very prospect of putting American boots on the ground. You want to conquer a country, but you don't want to put boots on the ground. That is the clearest expose of the American enfeeblement, the weakening of the American fighting spirit. This itself will ensure that America will decline in the immediate future. In fact, the decline has already begun, and American weaknesses stand woefully expressed through the Iran involvement. I'm sure Trump would now agree with me that he would have been a lot wiser and America would have done better if it had not got enmeshed in the Iran war, to which America was smoothly and smartly lured, decoyed by Netanyahu on behalf of a certain faction in Israel. That's another story. So the Americans are seriously weakened by their way of life. Now, one thing that has contributed to this weakening of the American spirit is their consumerist way of life. The other, and that must be understood, is reposing the total faith in the military might. Now, what you would ask me, is that not natural? Is that not a good thing? No, it's a bad thing. I'll tell you why. The moment you understand that the source of your strength is external to you, which is the case when you put your trust in arms, you forget the need to develop your inner strength. I can tell you without any fear of contradiction that the strength that prevails in the end is not the strength of your arms, it's the strength of your spirit. The spirit will rule history. It's something that the Americans have forgotten. So, this excessive reliance on external strengths, and the same goes for Russia. Putin's might is based entirely on reliance on the engines of destruction that he can flaunt as the great achievement of his regime. Russia will not be stronger but weaker for Putin. Time will prove, mark my words. In contrast, China is playing a cool game. Therefore, I'm totally convinced that in the very near future, China will emerge as the most dominant country and the force that really matters in the global village. So when you put your total faith in arms, what happens is you develop an allergy to be rational, to be human, and you find it very difficult to treat others like you want to be treated by them. So you renounce equality. For example, take Putin. To Putin, it is very natural and necessary that he takes military help from North Korea, from Iran, and from mercenaries here, there, and everywhere, wherever they can be bought for money. But if any other country helps Ukraine, it's an insufferable offense. Russia can take external help, but Ukraine should not take external help. And Putin does not realize that this is a blatant contradiction, and that is the problem with power. with putting all your confidence in external forces. You find the same streak in Trump as well. If anyone else behaves the way he's behaving, he will see to it, he gets seriously offended, and he cannot rest until that person is settled. Now, let's proceed further. Trump is a prisoner of the very force that exalted him, MAGA. He cannot prosecute the Iran war as he really wants, because if he pursues with this undertaking to its logical conclusion, his MAGA base will turn against him, and that will be the end of it. But unfortunately, if Trump runs away from the Iran theater of opposition, this will be a serious setback for American dominance in the world, from which America is not going to recover. America will not recover from this episode. Mark my words. Now, I said a short while ago that Trump is a man who has not come to terms with the forces within himself, and he harbors forces that pull him in opposite directions. So, what does a man who is in that state rely on finally? He cannot rely on the power of weapons in order to come to terms with his inner forces. The only thing that could have helped is what is called faith. See, human beings have this tendency. Within ourselves, we have forces, tendencies that pull us in opposite directions. We may want to go this way, but we may end up going the other way. Every one of us experiences this contrary pulse. We want to do that, but we do something else. We want to stay and fight, but we want to run away. So on and so forth. Now, the function of faith is to effect a kind of integration within oneself, so that a person as an agent of action becomes consistent and coherent and pursues a line of action to its logical conclusion. Whether the conclusion is good, bad, or indifferent is immaterial. What we are talking about here is the ability to be coherent within oneself, to be united, integrated, unified within oneself, so that every moment there is a twist or a turn, that chaotic situation can be avoided, and a consistent pursuit of an avowed goal, which is the hallmark of rational behavior, can be achieved. And judged by this standard, surely you would agree with me that Trump fares very poorly indeed. Now, the one thing that could have made a difference in this regard is true faith. Now, here the greatest irony of all. Trump is praised, sung to the skies as a defender of Christianity. But from all that he does, as someone who tries to practice Christianity, I can tell you that Trump is the farthest from the spirit of Christianity. He is one who has absolutely no faith, except faith in dollar, faith in tariff, faith in infantile behavior, so on and so forth. Now, for example, take the wars that the Greeks fought. The Greeks, before they launched their wars, went to the temple of Delphi and consulted the oracle, the Delphic oracle. And when the oracle revealed the will, saying that is good for you to, it's okay, you can go and fight, then what happened was the soldiers got thoroughly convinced that they were fighting in accordance with the will of God, and therefore they would prevail. So such an attitude, such an orientation completely rules out this kind of pull in this direction, that direction, which completely destroys your energy. Now, in this case, even superstition helps. Superstition greatly helps in the art of warfare. I can give you illustrations from history, but again, time will get out of hand. So, the fact that Trump has absolutely no faith is clearly proved by the Iran theater of opposition, theater of war. So, a man who has no faith functions only according to the principle of expediency. Whatever is expedient now, do that. Today, it would seem that it is expedient to act in this go in this direction. Tomorrow, your perspective changes. You'll think, no, it's better to go in the opposite direction, and you go that way. That's what happens. When you don't have faith and the consistency that faith alone imparts, you would be left at the mercy of this chaotic forces that act within you and without you all the time. And that can be clearly seen in the way Trump behaves. As far as Trump is concerned, his God is the dollar. His favorite word is tariff. And his mission, his expertise is in deal making. But Trump does not realize that both war making and peace making are very different from deal making. Unfortunately, the inflated infant that he is, he thinks that deal making and war making are both like, war making and peace making are both like deal making. Even now, in spite of the trauma that he has suffered, he doesn't seem to have realized that they are exactly the opposites. This again is typical of Trump, the inflated infant, because he cannot understand the wisdom of what is happening. Now, you can walk away from a deal, but you cannot walk away from a war. That is the problem. You can walk away from a deal, but you cannot walk away from a war. So Trump now finds himself in a stalemate, and my dear friends, I have to say this. I feel sorry for him. He looks pathetic. The great man, the most powerful man, and there was never anyone like him, not even close. Looks more pathetic than any other American president has ever done. So, the war has exposed Trump, the man. Man to man, the slain Ayatollah, I dare say, is far superior to Trump. If I have to compare the Ayatollah with Trump, man to man, not office to office, man to man, absolutely, Ayatollah is superior to Trump. Not even close. Trump is not even close. The determination, the courage, the willingness to face adversity, the power to endure in times of extreme odds that Ayatollah Khomeini displayed. I'm not an admirer of him. Certainly not. But these strengths are far superior to the weaknesses that Trump has been revealing day after day. In a similar manner, man to man, the Iranians are superior to the Americans. So when this talk began that Americans are going to land in and capture certain parts of Iran and all that, actually I got scared because the American weakness will be exposed to an incredible extent. The American land army will not be a match to the Iranian army. There's no question about it. The reason is the Iranians are so committed to what they want to do and to achieve that 10,000 perishing on a single day is not a problem for them. Whereas for America, a single soldier falling in the battlefield is a big issue because America is too weak to pay the price for what it wants to achieve. They want to achieve without having to pay the price. Iranians are willing to pay any price. And therefore, look at the contrast between the two sides. Trump says that the Iranians are begging him for a ceasefire. Iranian says, forget about it, we are not even interested. We are not even willing to consider this. They are so consistent in spite of all the odds against it, in spite of all the beating they have taken. They say, no, we are not interested. We will end the war on our terms. And Trump says, I'm running away. Now you hold the baby. It tells the rest of the world, now you hold the baby. I'm going. Who is weak? Who is strong? Please tell me. Now this is a very pathetic revelation of what America has come to be. Real strength is proved in times of adversity. I'm amazed at the iron determination, the iron willpower of the Iranians, and I cannot but admire it. It must prevail. That's the logic of history. I'm not partisan to Iran. In fact, I regret what Iran has come to be, though I have great admiration for the Iranian culture, which has at least 7,000 years old, wonderful, glorious history. So I'm not, even though I'm not partisan to Iran, I consider the war against Iran an exercise in hypocrisy, blatant hypocrisy. Iran is being attacked for trying to be a regional America. America wants to dominate the whole world. Iran wants to dominate a certain region. They want to be the regional big brother. America wants to be the global big brother, which is all right. For me to be the global big brother is all right. But if you try to be the local, regional big brother, I'll blast you. To me, that is nothing but hypocrisy. So this whole war is an exercise in hypocrisy. The global community is not obliged, not divinely obliged to accept American hegemony. Americans think, Trump certainly thinks the rest of the world is divinely obliged to accept American domination. His will must prevail over the whole globe. There is no such thing. Trump is delusional in this respect. And Iran is slightly less delusional, but both are in the same boat. That's also the reason why we find both of them standing face to face with each other. Trump has a psychological need to be in conflict. The man cannot live in peace. Though he wants to project himself as a peacemaker, that's how he began. And I shared a video with you at that time saying that contrary to what he professes, America will be dragged into more wars during Trump's tenure. That's because of the logic of what the MAGA movement is, logic of the American hegemony, logic of what has been happening and shaping up in the global village over a period of time. And as an individual, Trump can actualize himself only through conflict, not through peaceful relationship, not through relationship of reciprocity, equality, dignity, mutual respect, nothing of the sort. He must dominate. And we have not forgotten that very typical episode that happened in the White House, at which the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, was unnecessarily dominated and trampled underfoot. No head of a nation in the entire history of humankind, has ever been insulted and humiliated for no rhyme or reason, simply because Zelensky did not accept tamely Donald Trump's illusory and delusional scheme of things or reading of the Ukrainian situation. Trump believes that Russia did not attack Ukraine. Ukraine is responsible for the war, which is completely contrary to facts. It has pleased Trump to embrace this fiction, and he wanted Zelensky also to swallow the same piece of fiction, which he refused, and I respect him for that. If I have to choose between Zelensky and Trump, I would choose Zelensky 100 to 1. 100 to 1. There's no question about it. Trump would not have endured in Ukraine even for 2 days. So, like Modi in India, he can thrive only in a situation of hate and hostility. Can you imagine a polite Trump? The very idea sounds strange, doesn't it? At least it does to me. As I said, the enduring image after Trump has played his role and gone, the enduring image of Trump's tenure, second tenure, will be that White House drama, which exposed not Zelensky, but Trump. And if I had even a vestige of respect for Trump, the whole thing evaporated that day. And the relationship that Trump has developed with Europe and indeed with the rest of the world is equally confrontational, because he realizes his true nature only in conflict and confrontation. And imagine alienating NATO, of which America is the prime member, the animating force. And within NATO, imagine threatening to attack Denmark as a member of NATO and annexing a large piece of Denmark territory, Greenland. Can you imagine a thing like that? Was it because all the predecessors of Trump, the previous presidents of America, were spineless characters that they did not behave in this manner? Or they chose to behave differently because they respected their office and they understood the requirements of human dignity? What do you think? So, Trump has respect only for dictators like Putin or the North Korean madcap Kim Jong-un, and to an extent the Chinese Premier Xi Jinping, but he'll have no respect for people, for leaders who behave in a civilized, polite, courteous manner. So, Iran is America's Waterloo. You remember the battle between France and England in Waterloo, which actually proved a turning point for Napoleon. Iran is Trump's Waterloo. History is definitely turning against Trump. If the people of America don't realize this and dump Trump, they'll be in deep trouble. So my advice to the people of America is, if you really care for your country, if you want America to be great, I'm addressing particularly the MAGA base, and Make America Great Again base. If you really want your country to be great, dump Trump. Save America before it is too late. I apologize for the length of this video. I could not make it any shorter. Please forgive me. All the best. Jai Hind. God save America.